Hey guys, welcome back to some more reviews. Explorer 4 here, The Horror Boy. And today we're getting to a film that just got done watching and decided to check it out out of curiosity because I picked up this 4-pack, this DVD 4-pack a while ago. And mainly because all these films really interested me. I've heard of all the movies. I believe Eduardo Sanchez. Yeah, he made The Seventh Moon, he directed the movie. I heard about that one. I also heard about the one talking about today, The Thaw and Offspring. I've heard of pretty much every single one of these movies, and I've been wanting to check them out for a minute now. And very cheap pickup, so decided to watch one of them at least. And of course, today's review is going to be on The Thaw. Now, The Thaw is a 2009 film that's a 5.2 on IMDb, directed by Mark A. Lewis. And The Thaw, after watching this movie, it's decent. It's decent. It's okay. It's not bad at all. It's got a few things here and there that I'll get that I'll get into that really, no pun intended, bug me about the movie. But other than that, the movie's really solid. It's not bad at all. And basically, the story is Val Kilmer is this researcher. He's this lead researcher of him and these two other people. They're out in the Arctic and they discover something thawing in the ice. They don't know what it is. I think they're out there researching polar bears or something like that. I can't remember what they were doing, but I know that they shoot this polar bear. Then they look over and they see something thawing in the ice. Don't know what it is, and basically they find a woolly mammoth, a preserved woolly mammoth, and in this woolly mammoth there are these parasites, these little bug-like creatures that burrow into skin and lay eggs and end up eventually killing the host. And a couple of people on his crew gets infected. Meanwhile, his daughter and a few other students are going to be going to where they're at to help them study things. Of course, they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know about the infection or any of that. So they end up going out there and figuring out what this thing is. And basically, these students, one by one, begin to get infected. And the characters begin to change psychologically throughout the movie. And as the movie goes along, you're seeing kind of this decline, this just horrible, horrible parasite just taking over these different people. And you're seeing different stages of the virus, or not really a virus, it's more of a parasite. You're seeing different stages of what this parasite can do to you. And I will say this, I want to get into the positives first, because there are a lot of problems with this movie that I think if they were tweaked, if they were just tweaked, this movie would be great. It'd be a great film. It has an awesome concept, and the script had the idea there. And I think they were definitely putting a lot of passion into this movie. I mean, they were busting their ass to get this movie done. And there's definitely, like I said, a lot of passion here. But I want to get into the good things before I get into the problems, because there are quite a few problems here. First of all, I want to say this. The movie looks great. It's shot very well. For being a lower budget movie, I mean, I know this was released on like not even Ghost House, but like Ghost House Underground, which is, I would imagine, it's kind of like Dimension Extreme, where it's that subdivision of Ghost House, which I think in itself is a subdivision of Lionsgate, if I'm not mistaken, because you have the Lionsgate logo, then you have Ghost House. So I'm wondering if they were just like it doesn't give me a budget on here. It just says that it made $149,000 worldwide, but it doesn't give me the budget of the movie. But I assume it's very low budget, because like I said, I think it's it's basically like a subdivision of a subdivision. So it's very low budget, but the movie looks good. It's shot well, has a good atmosphere to it. You really believe they're in the Arctic. Now, I don't know if they shot on location or not. There's maybe a few scenes here and there that you can tell. Maybe there's green screen, maybe there's not. I don't know, just the way that it was shot. But for the most part, it looks great. Has a cool atmosphere. I love the idea of it being the Arctic, kind of a cool throwback to stuff like The Thing and other movies taking place in the cold areas. Um, and I really enjoyed the fact that this movie was just very well shot and well directed. I mean, Mark A. Lewis didn't do a bad job directing this movie. There are certain shots I enjoy. There are certain camera techniques that I thought were really good. The movie has a good look to it. It's got some good lighting. So I think visually the movie is on point. Number two, the point number two. The point number two that I want to get to is great special effects. There are a ton of scenes in this movie that are creepy, that are unsettling, and are intense, and the effects are not bad. There is a few shots of CGI here and there, which, I mean, for certain ideas, you would have to do CGI, because with how these parasites look and how they would film certain scenes, it would have to be done in CGI, because there's no other way to really do certain scenes. Like there's a scene where literally there's bugs filmed this entire room, and I could imagine that being difficult to do with, like, let's say they took another bug and did it, but it wouldn't look the same. So certain scenes have CGI, but I will say it's used sparingly. It's not like a movie where everything's done in CGI. You know, CGI background, CGI helicopters, CGI this, CGI that. No, it's definitely a practical movie. A lot of practical gore effects. Kind of gives me a Cabin Fever vibe where there's a lot of gross out scenes. And there's even a scene that is kind of similar to Cabin Fever 2 where a person gets infected. Let's just say if you're a guy, it's an area that you would probably never, not probably, definitely never want to be infected in. So I'll let you guys have some time to think that out. But yeah, there's a guy in this movie who gets infected in a certain area, and good God, is it painful to know where it's at. But yeah, so there are certain scenes that are definitely gross and disgusting. But it's not one of those movies like Cabin Fever 2 where it's like every single scene has ridiculous amount of gore and ridiculous amount of gross out stuff. Like Cabin Fever 2, to me, is one of those very few examples of taking the gore to almost too much, to where like every scene is trying to be this disgusting, just outrageous stuff, and just to do it. Like in the first Cabin Fever, it was never really like that. It was like certain scenes here and there that were meant to gross people out, but not like every single scene almost. But in this movie, it's done well. It's done for suspense. It's done to creep you out, and it really does. So the special effects are on point. I like the way that the parasites look. Very cool design to them. And I thought it was a creepy idea. The script and the story was well done. It has a great story to it. I mean, it has really good potential to be an amazing film, to be an amazing horror film. It really does. The story is there. I love the idea of them going out there and not really knowing what this is, and as the movie goes along, you're figuring out what this is piece by piece. I like the idea that the characters are kind of mentally breaking down. Like, certain people are kind of giving up hope. Certain people are denying, they're in denial. Some people are going nuts and thinking that they're in charge of the show and grabbing guns and stuff like that. And I like the idea. The execution of it is what I'll get to in the problem side of the video. But I like that idea of people breaking down, different people's reactions to this thing, and really doing that psychology of, like I said, it reminds me of a good throwback to The Thing, but it's not a total ripoff of The Thing. Like, it's not like they're out in the actual snow, in the middle of the snowstorm, everything that's happening. It's not a ripoff of The Thing, but it's a good, idea of trying to do what that movie did, where it's the psychology stuff. So I thought that was pretty good. The acting, the actors are not the problem with this movie. They did decent. The lead chick at first really annoyed me, but I thought as the movie went along, she became a likable character. And definitely by the end of the movie, definitely redeemed herself as a character. But it's not the acting per se that's bad. It's let's say it's more of the writing, it's more of the dialogue type of stuff. But yeah, overall the good things, it's a fast-paced movie. It's not really boring at all. It's definitely intense at times, has some good sequences like the sequence where someone gets their arm infected and there's only one way that they think of to contain that infection. You guys are probably connecting the dots already. There's a sequence where there's a room full of these bugs. It's really intense. There's a sequence where there's just a lot of good scenes, like build-up scenes and stuff like that. So it has some good memorable scenes, has a good story. The plot is there, the atmosphere is there. It's very well shot, visually really good looking for the low budget. Um, Short movie to the point, and I thought for being a horror thriller creature feature flick or parasite flick, however you want to look at the movie, uh, it was pretty good. But as far as the problems, I want to say this to the dialogue and to say this to these characters and how they interact and how the dialogue is delivered and how it's written and stuff like that. Less is more. I feel like every single scene in this movie had to have dialogue in it. We got to have people reacting in this movie. People going, "Oh, what is that? A flea? What is this? A polar bear? Can you get a picture with me by this polar bear, man?" And like every scene has to have this dialogue. I'm like, just shorten dialogue down. You don't need them reacting to everything they see. Like, it's so dark in here. What's that smell? Do you smell that smell? What is that smell? And it's like every single scene, they're reacting to everything. And it's like everything that they can think of. Like, is that a doorknob? Do I turn that? Is it locked? I think it's locked. Where's the key? Do you guys know where the key's at? Look at that doorknob. It is polished. Polished. Look at that. Look at that. I got a key. The door's locked. It's not that ridiculous. I'm over exaggerating it, of course. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of scenes where the dialogue is kind of like that, where it's them putting out the obvious stuff or them just saying things that are really like the dialogue is one of the biggest problems in this movie because there are certain times where the characters are pretty much all unlikable. And that's another thing. They're all pretty much assholes. There's nobody that you can really get behind because everybody in this movie is an asshole or being really annoying at this point of this movie. Now, I get it. You want to have a point to your movie. You want to have a message. You know what? As much as people despise and hate Cannibal Holocaust, I think a lot of people misunderstand what the true horror behind that movie is. Yes, there's offensive stuff going. Yes, there's horrible stuff going on in that movie. There's offensive stuff. There's terrible things going on in that movie. But the main point of that movie is to show how dark humans can be, how grim humanity can get, how brutal and how far people are willing to go for fame, for attention, for celebrity status. And when you watch that movie, it has a good theme and message to it, to where it's about how even the civilized person, the most civilized people can do the most horrendously awful things. And in this movie, they were pushing this global warming thing. And I'm like, okay, the movie opens up, and it's basically the opening credits is all being like, is global warming real? Is it not? Is it a threat? Here's this person's opinion. Here's this person's opinion. It's all like newsreels and stuff like that. Okay, you want to open up your movie, the opening credits of that? All right, fine. The next scene is them in a classroom, once again talking about global warming. Not as much, but, you know, it's them learning about it, whatever. Then it's the next scene is them talking about, in the helicopter, you know, what would you do with global warming? You know, us humans are pieces of shit. They don't say it like that, but that's basically some of their dialogue. They're like, you know, us humans are pieces of shit. We'll never change. We're too selfish. What do you think? Well, I think we have a chance still about global warming. And it's literally a whole scene about them talking about global warming. And it's like, I get it. I get it. Okay, filmmakers, I get it. It's about global warming. I get it. I understand. And then in the scene after that, they go to this place, they find this lab, this research area, and even there, they're talking about global warming stuff. I'm like, okay, I get it. It's the subject of the movie. I understand, but good God, can we rest on it just for a second? Let them just talk about something, you know? But that got really annoying really fast. That was definitely a problem too. They kept on bringing it up too. It's the whole movie. I'm like, I get it, I get it. Global warming, bad, awful. But you gotta bring up every single time. There's this one guy, he's freaking idiot about it. He's like, well, we would just blow stuff up. Maybe that'll stop global warming. Like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? And there's certain times, there's dialogue that's said that I go, what the fuck? And there are certain things where I'm going like, what the fuck? A lot on. Like, first of all, they unthaw this woolly mammoth. Now, the woolly mammoth, you would think, is this massive thing. And it's like, okay, it's this historic thing, big giant thing. No, I thought it was a grizzly bear at first. Like, what the fuck is that? And then it's perfectly preserved, fur, flesh, and all, perfectly preserved, has these parasites in it. I'm like, first of all, how'd y'all find a woolly mammoth out of nowhere? Second of all, wouldn't that, maybe I'm an idiot, maybe I'm stupid, but I thought, like, woolly mammoths are like bones. Like, they find them, they dig them up, they're bones, right? This is a woolly mammoth we're talking about here, and they find it perfectly preserved in a little patch of ice. And so, that's where the parasites come from. Like, what the fuck? And then there are just certain dialogue scenes. I can talk about it all day, but there are certain times in the movie where there's dialogue where you're going like, okay, what the fuck? And another problem that kind of bothered me was, like I said, the idea of these people psychologically breaking down to me is a good idea. However, when it gets to them breaking down, a guy literally just snaps, grabs a gun, and says, I'm in charge now. He just goes crazy. That's literally, if you watch the movie, that's how fast it is. It's like, okay, this is getting out of hand. Alright, I'm a bad guy now. I'm the villain. You all stay back. I was a little bit of an asshole before, but now I'm a major asshole. It's like, what the fuck? Where did that come from? The certain people, and I did like the pilot character, but the stuff that he was saying was like, his dialogue was like out of nowhere, and he's over here by this bear just posing by it. I'm like, first of all, this dead bear, you don't know what's going on with it. Of course, it gets infected, and it's just like certain scenes that definitely the dialogue. So, key thing, dialogue was definitely in the problems category. Maybe a few shots of CGI here and there. I can forgive that, though. Maybe the last thing is the music. The music really wasn't anything memorable. Just a really generic score. But you know what? To look at this movie, The Thaw, it wasn't a bad movie. And I don't want to sound too negative on it because I did overall enjoy this movie. It's not a bad creature feature flick at all. It's a low budget. They got the acting in there. The strongest things are the effects, the atmosphere, cinematography, the direction, the how brutal it is, certain really good key moments in the movie, key scenes. It's definitely not boring. It's fast paced, and you have Val Kilmer in there doing decent, which I'm very surprised they got Val Kilmer in there because he doesn't really do horror films, and he doesn't really do movies like this. So, okay, you got Val Kilmer in there, I'll give you that. But overall, short, to the point, very decent flick. Fairly decent. I enjoyed The Thaw. If I were to rate it, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. It's definitely got a lot of problems there. But overall, it's a fun movie. It's a fun time. I definitely thought it was a decent horror film. But anyways, guys, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. If you have seen the movie, let me know in the comments below, guys, thoughts on this film. If you haven't seen the movie, definitely go check it out. But anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys. Spoiler 4 is out. I'll see you guys later. And that's it. Peace.